mic'd out. I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another This Week in Startups. It's episode number 69. We've been doing this for over a year. I think we started May last year. Is that right, Tyler? April, May?
Well, 50.
Feels like it's been about 5 years.
Should be a little over a year for it. 69 episodes.
Yeah, it's definitely over a year.
Doing it more or less weekly.
Show's going great 2 times a week because there's just so much great stuff going on in the internet industry that we can't fit it into one show. Today is going to be an amazing show. We have what I think is the hottest startup of the moment in Silicon Valley. They happened to be in town. Brian Alvey pinged me and said, hey, you got to meet these guys. This is really interesting. So anytime Brian Alvey pings me with something like that, which is like once every year, he's generally pretty pessimistic about things.
Right.
I'm not saying he's a pessimistic person.
Right, no, but he doesn't waste people's time.
He's not like, I wouldn't want to waste my time.
Exactly.
But Brian Alvey, of course, was on show number 1. He was the first guest.
Yes, he was.
Special first guest. And he's running Crowd Fusion, and he's actually in town this week. I'm going to try to have dinner with him. Friday's show is going to start at 11 a.m. because I'm going to be going out to New York for the Audience Conference, Lauren Feldman's conference, where I'm going to be speaking, doing a fireside chat with Mike Arrington. Puppet. With the Mike Arrington puppet.
That's what it's come to.
That's what it's come down to. I can't even tell you, this week I spent 5 hours in a lawsuit with Mike Arrington that I have nothing to do with. Nothing to do with. You know, he's in the lawsuit over the Juju pad. So Fusion Garage is being sued by Mike Arrington. And so they're like, oh, you broke up with Mike Arrington, the TechCrunch 50. Now we need you to testify in this lawsuit to say that Mike Arrington is a bad person. I assume. And that your partnership had no contract, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so
on the nature of partnering with Mike or something?
Basically, I'm Mike Arrington's character witness, which is just ironic considering like we had a little bit of a falling out. Yeah. Everybody knows I don't feel so good about the way Mike Arrington treated me. I'm doing my own conference, but I'm not going to get into a lawsuit with anybody. I mean, I can just go out and do my own thing.
Well,
right?
But they didn't bring on the lawsuit. Mike did, right?
Well, that's the funny thing, because I talked to the guys from Fusion or their attorneys, and I was like, listen, guys, what are you doing in a lawsuit over a tablet when Steve Jobs is in this business? This makes no sense. You've already lost. There is no winning. And they're like, oh, Jason, we're not suing Mike Arrington. He's suing us. Right. This has got to be costing Mike Arrington $500,000 at this point. It's the stupidest thing he's ever done, aside from dropping me as a partner on TechCrunch 50, which is really stupid because now he's created a competitor. But I digress. But I had to spend 5 hours doing document discovery. They asked me and I shouldn't even talk about this because now I'm going to get like another request for all the things I mentioned now. So literally, they want every conversation I've had with Mike Arrington about TechCrunch 50, and every email I have that has TechCrunch 50 in it, every document regarding our partnership, and everything that mentions Fusion Garage, Juju Pad, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I have years of emails with Arrington and the TechCrunch staff, like literally tens of thousands of emails are on TechCrunch because I send the invites from my personal email address. I get all the things back. I've got you know how many emails it is. And so like, I literally spent 5 hours doing this. Not happy. And I'm probably 5 dimes in the hole in his lawsuit. I am.
They want to pay for this to use in their defense or something?
I have to pay for it. I had to hire a litigation attorney.
Do they want to pay for these documents?
No, that's not how it works in the criminal system, in the civil court system, whatever system this is going to wind up in. I'm sure this will wind up with a settlement where they settle on the 1,000 Juju pads, crunch pads, that are in a warehouse somewhere collecting dust that nobody will ever pay, and that they're going to have to pay $10,000 to destroy. Right. $1 million in lost legal fees, my prediction, of which at least 10 dimes will be mine. It's a buy-in for the World Series of Poker. I mean, I'm infuriated. Anyway, what will not infuriate you, what will delight you, is the .co brand name registrar. As you know, .co stands for company.
You're doing negative segues now.
It's a negative. It's a flip.
Flipped it.
I flipped it.
Okay.
I flipped it. Flipped topsy-turvy. Yes. That's all. What you will feel great about, and what you will feel great about spending $29 on, is a .co domain name. Venture Hacks just launched its popular Angel list on angel.co. Twitter bought t.co. I bought about I've bought about 20, 25 .co domain names. I can't tell you all of them because some of them are just so good you can't believe it. You need to go get a .co. I was on there this morning looking for a couple of COs because the COMs are not available. And I think this thing is going to really take off. They've done a great job supporting the show. And you can go to GoDaddy and just buy it there. It's not like there's a CO place. Everybody sells .cos. I use GoDaddy. They're not the sponsor of this. .co is. But more than 400,000 names have been registered in 2 weeks. You know what that basically means? That means there's 9,600,000 good domains left. That means it's probably about, you probably have a couple of weeks left to get the good domain names. Highly recommend going there and getting a .co. If you do get a .co, just tweet, hey, I bought a .co because I was watching This Week in Startups Pound Twist. And we'll pick one person at random who does that, and we'll send you, what do we send you? I'll send you, I'll pay for your .co domain. So we'll pick one person at random who bought one, and we'll pay for it. We'll send you the $30 for it, PayPal or something. Anyway, today's going to be a great show, as I mentioned. Kurt Wilms? Wilms. I'm about to say Williams, but Kurt Wilms.
Kurt Wilms.
W-I-L-M-S, Wilms. Kurt Wilms is here. He's the founder and CEO of Fflick, which is spelt Fflick, Fflick.com. Also, his co-founders are here, and we'll have them on the camera later. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah. God, your company's hot right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's fun, right?
We're flattered to hear you say that.
It's fun to be the hot company, though, right?
It's definitely been a fun week.
You're getting a lot of interesting people calling you, I bet. You're getting a lot of interesting emails, very powerful, rich VCs, angel investors drooling over you. Correct or not correct?
Correct. Excitement is in the air.
I love it. That's a great moment. I've been there twice, maybe 3 times when you're a hot startup. That is the greatest feeling, and we're going to talk about what you should do at a moment like that. I just wrote an email about that, and what you are doing, and why this product is getting so much attention. However, before we do that, it's time for Ask Jason. You've seen the program.
I have, yes.
So it'll be Ask Jason and Kurt. Do we have a caller on the line? Okay, the phone is ringing, and I see a picture of a dude.
How's it going, Jason?
Dude, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Jason?
I can hear you. Edward, you're there. You're calling from Albany, the 518. I will actually be in upstate New York next week on holiday in the Catskill Mountains. Not far from you.
No.
So you have a question for us? Let's hear it.
I do. I wanted to know what you believe Mark Zuckerberg's exit strategy is. And the reason I'm asking this question is I went to college with a guy who dropped out freshman year, and he now works at Facebook, so we're not going to mention any names, but I got some inside information.
By the way, he was just fired.
Probably.
Yeah.
I got some inside information.
They're working backwards through your friends list right now.
There you go. I got some inside information that there were a couple secret offers to Zuckerberg in the early days from Yahoo. One of which about $750 million. The next one was about $2 billion, and I don't know. My jaw just kind of drops, and I don't really understand what he's staying in for. If it's the control, if it's the glory, he could be doing so much more for the world and for himself right now, as far as I'm concerned. And he's kind of, I don't know, he's tainted his legacy at the moment. He's in the headlines. He's got a lot of heat from Jason Nation here, and he's got the lawsuit that's pending on him. And I don't know. Yeah. I just want to know, what's he doing?
It's an interesting question. When you're an ultra hot startup and you're getting multi-billion-dollar offers, a rational person would say that is life-changing beyond belief. I'm going to take my money and become Mark Cuban and buy a basketball team and a couple of jets and whatever, and a nice house, and move on with my life. That being said, if you have good people around you advising you, they can help you time the sale of your company. And so Sean Parker got involved very early on. Sean Parker's a friend of mine. He's very intelligent. He's seen this movie before, not the Social Network, but the movie of hot startup growing. And when you look at the curve and somebody says, listen, schmuck, this is where you are on the curve, it's going this way, you stay in. So basically, you have to know there's 2 reasons to sell a company. One is you don't think it's growing anymore, and 2 is you don't like doing it anymore. There are other factors, of course, but those are the 2 general reasons why you'd sell. Number one, he loves doing it. Obviously, he's into it, and he loves product, and he's very good at product. So putting aside how I feel about privacy issues and how all his business partners feel he treated them, which is obviously pretty poor if there's multiple lawsuits, and you can basically handicap and say half the lawsuits are probably valid and half aren't. That's generally how it goes. So he's got enough that some of these have to be valid in my estimation. But he had Sean Parker next to him the whole time, and Sean Parker obviously has been involved in a lot of things that have grown very quickly and is a very highly intelligent person and a very savvy person. So I think Sean Parker probably explained to him, if you're getting a $100 million offer now, you're going to get a $1 billion offer, you're going to get a $10 billion offer. That being said, we have things like second market now, and people can liquidate their shares as they go, even in private companies. This is a revolution. Also, the Founders Fund, which Sean Parker is involved in, obviously, created this idea of founder shares and exiting early, something that Ron Conway, interestingly enough, who's an investor in Facebook, or I think actually he's not an investor in Facebook, but he got advisor shares, so they could say he was an investor or something like that. I don't know the exact story. But Ron Conway originally came out and said you shouldn't be able to sell founder shares. You have to wait till the IPO and exit like everybody else. He flipped on that actually now in my last conversation with him and said, you know what? Now that things are taking a little longer, we're cool with that, and there being a secondary market for shares. So if he can sell tens of millions of dollars in shares to DST, the Russian guys you've probably heard about a whole bunch, or on second market for 25, what was it, Tyler? 25 billion the other day when we were talking about the market cap?
Yeah, close to that.
Yeah. So it's not as binary as it used to be, Edward. You can sell as you go. Kurt, you were at Dig for a long time. Dig is traded heavily on second market. Have you sold shares of Dig?
I have not sold any shares. No.
But you've had the opportunity to do so.
I have options in Dig, yeah.
You have options. So you could theoretically sell it on second market. How did that change the company there?
I mean, I've never talked to any employees who've sold any shares on second market, no.
Oh, okay. There's definitely been people who've sold on second markets. I see Dig shares trading there, people offering them. And typically in a second or third round, it's pretty well known that Kevin Rose got to sell some shares. I think he's actually been upfront about that. So it's not as binary as you think, and I think he's into it because he wants to be Bill Gates. He wants to be important. He wants to, like we all do, and he wants to get it to 1 billion users. So I don't see him selling the company ever. I think he's a very driven person. It's obvious. I mean, I don't know if you heard the story of lockdown this week or something. He's got some sort of thing called lockdown at Facebook, which he used to do where nobody can do anything but work, and they're, it's like a red alert, like all hands on deck, DEFCON 4 or whatever. So supposedly he has a neon sign outside his office or whatever that says, there's a story came out that it says like we're on red alert or whatever it is, lockdown. And everybody in the company's on lockdown because of Google's, big gaming.
Maybe it's an internal privacy thing. Like
lock all that privacy down?
Yeah, like you got to lock all the privacy down because Google's coming out. And
So anyway, good question. And typically, people sell when they don't think that they can grow the company anymore, or they have an outside factor. I mean, I saw Weblogs Inc. very early, 18 months after we started it, and Brian and I and the other founders decided to do that because, frankly, we were broke. And we come from a very poor background. Brian's parents are not helping him out any. My parents are, middle class. It was a personal decision. I said, I got to take chips off the table. But I know I've got many more ideas that will probably be even better than Weblogs Inc., and hopefully time will prove that. So it's a personal decision, and on a strategy basis, you want to know if you're going to continue growing or not. In the case of Weblogs Inc., if somebody came to me and said, hey, we'll buy out, a third of the company and give you and Brian and Peter Rojas some money, that option really didn't exist in 2004, 2005 when we were building that company. If that did exist, I actually might have taken that. I would have definitely considered it. So the VCs and the investors and private equity are creating structures in which people can build for a longer period of time, and that's a good thing for entrepreneurs and investors because people are not building for the quick flip. Good question, Edward Barker from Albany.
Thanks, Jason.
Talk to you next time.
All right. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you to... That's a pretty good question.
That was a good question.
I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
He was trying to goat me into the trash Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm like, you know what? I am out of the trashy Mark Zuckerberg business. I cannot have my career defined by that. right?
Yeah, you don't want your career defined by that.
I mean, I'd rather have my career defined by what I make, not trashing what somebody else makes. And I'm not even trying to trash Facebook. I just disagree about the privacy things. We'll talk about it later. Hey, thanks to Gazelle, Gazelle.com, Gazelle. I'm going to pull this up here. You know what Gazelle is, right?
I don't know Gazelle.
You don't know Gazelle?
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy. You're going to love Gazelle. The average customer makes more than $100 every time Gazelle sells their gadgets for them. Use the promotional code TWI5, TWI and the number 5, and get a 5% bonus on the final trade-in value of your item. So if you have an iPhone 3 GS, let's say, because you have the iPhone 4. Do you have that?
I have the iPhone 3, so I'm going to be using Gazelle soon to get rid of it.
So if you go in here and you look at your iPhone 3, you can see that you can sell it now. You pick which one you have, boom, on the monitor, and you say, does it make calls? Is it free of water damage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And let's just say we do this, no, et cetera. And you can see what price this has been going for, and that the price is going down, but you can still get $65 for it. $65 might be a third of the price of your new iPhone 4. Perfect condition, let's say. And this is a great way to get rid of all those electronics that you have in your drawer. Nearly 100,000 people have used Gazelle to safely rid themselves of unwanted gadgets and earn some cash while doing so. This code applies to all products but media, movies and games, and may be used once per customer. I have my wife collecting literally a dozen phones, and she's doing them en masse on Gazelle.com. This is the service I've been waiting for. Thank you to Gazelle.com for sponsoring independent media like This Week in Startups and the other shows on the network like This Week in Mad Men, This Week in iPad, This Week in Video Games, which is crushing it and now the largest show on the network. If you use Gazelle, then do the whole social proof thing. When you go home and you use it, just tweet. I used Gazelle because I heard about it on This Week in Startups Pound Twist. Perfect. I'm pretty good at the commercial thing, right? Yeah. I love doing the commercials. I almost love doing the commercials as much as I love doing the Ask Jasons. I sort of feel like the people have lost that salesmanship in commercials. Okay, let's talk about Fflick. You have your co-founders here with you. Maybe we can put a little camera on them. There we go, co-founders. Co-founders, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Ron Gordetsky. I'm CTO and co-founder of Fflick.
CTO, okay.
I'm Tav Zimak. I'm the Chief Science Officer and co-founder of Fflick.
And there's also Mark Hemian, who couldn't be with us today.
Four co-founders.
4 co-founders, there's 4 of us.
And interestingly enough, you all worked at a company called Dig.
Yeah, we all met once upon a time at a company called Dig.
And so how long did you guys work at Dig?
It varies. Ron was probably the oldest. I think he helped Kevin in the very, 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 very early days.
Yeah, I was there from the very beginning.
Employee number?
0.
Employee 0. What did you do?
I was a systems administrator for the first servers before we launched, and then moving from launch till about a month ago.
That's when Kevin was in Los Angeles?
Yes.
And that's when I offered him over sushi lunch $4 million for Dig.
Yeah.
$1 million in cash, $3 million in Weblogs Inc. stock. He would have made $7 to maybe $15 million because the combined companies would have been worth a little more than they were, but he didn't take it.
Yeah.
Did you have conversations with him about that? Did he come back to the office and be like, dude?
I remember I talked to him out. We didn't have an office. It was an apartment. But yeah, he mentioned it after having that meeting with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, that guy, what did he say? That guy's an idiot? Or
no, it was like, we were all new to the internet industry, so basically. And so he was kind of excited, like someone has interest, right?
Right.
It's always nice to feel that
somebody
someone
cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely, interesting experience.
Didn't help me. He just went on and raised a bunch of money. Jay Adelson properly counseled. We talked before about Sean Parker. I mean, you need to have counsel when you're young, and that would have been a great deal if he had done it with us with Weblogs Inc., but even better to be independent. So now, what's the story? Is Kevin cool with you guys leaving, and Jay and everybody, or is this like you guys are persona non grata? Is he pissed off that you're leaving and doing something else?
Oh, no, I think Jay and Kevin are both entrepreneurial guys. They understand.
Yeah.
So they like Fflick. They're excited about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It would seem that way. I mean, you guys spent a couple of years there. It seems like you spent 3 or 4 years working for those kind of guys. You become entrepreneurial.
Yeah, it's kind of a natural evolution when you're in these startups. Ron was there, 6 years? I was there 4 years.
I mean, you basically learned how to be an entrepreneur at Dig, right?
Yeah. Well, we also started Revision 3 at the same time. So.
Oh, you were involved with Rev 3?
Yeah, I'm co-founder of Rev 3 too. So.
I didn't know that. Wow, look at you.
So yeah, we've been doing this a little while.
Yeah. And Rev 3, I heard, is doing about $500,000 in revenue a month. You think that's about the ballpark?
To be honest, I'm not involved in it anymore. I my friends work there, and they seem to be happy and doing well.
Seems like they're making. I heard $5 million a year. They're making.
I hope
pretty
so.
Good.
I still have stock. So,
nice run rate. So let me pull up Fflick right now, and while I'm pulling it up, you tell me when did you have this idea, and what was the basic idea?
So I worked on a movie website about 5 years ago now called Movie Lens, movielens.org. So I've been involved in movies for 5 years in the tech world. Twitter started getting hot. The idea to kind of mine stuff out of Twitter for movies kind of occurred to me. And then I started writing some software to just try it out, and it eventually morphed into Fflick. So.
And what is Fflick?
So Fflick,
how do you explain what Fflick is?
So
why should I use it?
Very good questions. Fflick is what we're calling kind of a social media platform. And so movies are the first experiment on this platform. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take Twitter, we're trying to analyze it, and we're trying to build vertical sites. And so movies are the first sort of, experiment into this. You can imagine what other verticals like movies might be, TV shows,
so I
books,
look at this,
video games.
I look at it and I see Expendables 59%, Inception 75%. What is Dinner for Schmuck 64%? I'm familiar with Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. I understand they have like a freshness score, the Metacritic score. Is that what this is? But by friends?
So the percentages you're seeing are the Fflick score, and how it works is every tweet that comes in, the first thing we do is obviously analyze it, try to figure out if it's about a movie. Then the second thing we do is we run it through a sediment processor, which will classify it as positive, negative, neutral, and give it a score.
How do you do that? If it just says like it rocked, it sucked. What if I say it's badass? Is that how do you deal with that kind of stuff?
So we do. Dav might want to chime in here. He's the machine learning guy of Fflick, but we have some machine learning algorithms we use that we developed. And so basically what we do is we try to label a whole bunch of tweets, label them as positive and negative, and have these machine learning algorithms, kind of learn the tricks, like bad followed by so, like with so in front of it means it's really actually good. So the machine learning algorithms
Wait a second, if I said this is so bad I want to kill myself.
Hopefully the machine learning algorithm will figure out that's actually bad.
Okay.
So
explain to me, PhD, explain.
So basically, if you see, for example, want to see so bad, that might be some indication of intent and good. But if you want to say, I want to kill myself, with or without so bad, it's likely to be a negative connotation. So essentially, we get enough of these, tens of thousands labeled by people, and then run it through a machine learning algorithm, and that machine learning algorithm extends it to the 5 million, 10 million,
How
20
accurate
million.
is it? How do you know if I'm talking about an education, the film, or saying Tyler needs an education on blank? How does it know which education you're talking about? Is it look for the IMDb URL or something?
We use a whole bunch of tricks.
Tell us the tricks.
Yeah, so we use, there's keywords. So for example, if you're talking about the education with an actor in the movie, for example, it's a pretty strong indication that you're actually talking about the movie. So there's a whole bunch of keywords.
So actor, director, movie, film.
Exactly.
Went to see.
Exactly.
Got it.
And so what you'll see on the site today is sort of like version 0 of all these things. And we're constantly trying to tweak and improve. So
I'm looking at Inception right here. I see there's 1 million tweets there about Inception. It's got a 75% score. You got the basic information in here. I'm guessing you're pulling in from the IMDb API or something?
It's a combination of an internal tool plus, the Netflix API.
Beautiful. And you got the trailer, most influential people who have talked about it, I guess?
Yep.
Is that what I'm looking at here? And I see that Ashton Kutcher retweeted my Inception infographic. Kim Kardashian obviously needs help understanding the film. That goes without saying. John Mayer. So I guess you're rating these people here, Katy Perry. The reason I'm seeing these high up is because you're ranking them by the number of followers?
Yeah, so the default view you see when you go to a movie page is sort of the influential people and what they're saying about the movie. And it's a combination of a follower to followee ratio, that's right.
And I see here Rainn Wilson says Contraception, which is Inception porn title. Pretty good. And Rainn Wilson actually has a Snooki arrested mugshot as his thing. I was like, wow, Snooki is pretty funny. Why not ask people implicitly for their score of the movie?
Yeah.
You're trying to pull this information out. Why not just say, hey,
so
tell us?
Yeah. On the last page you showed, you'll see in the upper right, there's the 2 heart icons. Okay, now you're on your profile page.
Oh.
But, sorry.
The permalink page?
Yeah. So you see the
what do I
big
think?
red. Yeah. If you go ahead
I
and
say,
click
yeah,
that,
I loved it.
Bam. And so what you do is that'll actually. Yeah, that's a nice little. So what you'll do is you'll tweet right out to Twitter from this, and we can.
So to say I love it, to vote, I must spread your virus.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
So there's your built-in marketing. But I can edit this.
Yeah,
obviously.
of course you can edit it. You can say
love
whatever
Inception.
you want, and then it'll go through the natural sort of processing algorithm.
However, I love Fflick's viral voting strategy even more. Great. That is awesome. So in order to vote, I must tweet.
Right.
And now it knows that I explicitly loved it.
Right.
But why just love and not love? Why not a 5-star rating? Is there some decision here of, because there's many films that I'm going to be, maybe a 4-star or 2-star.
Yeah. So what we do actually when we generate the sediment is we have a score from -1 to 1, and we are actually storing that on the back, and we're just not exposing it yet. So that tweet you just sent out will score, and it could be anywhere from, I'm imagining, 0 to 1.
Right.
And so we have all that, and we can play games where, 0-star to 5-star rating. Kind of what we thought for the first go and kind of the initial UI, we thought it would just be a binary love-hate sort of thing.
And how accurate are you finding this? Are people saying, hey, it's tremendously accurate, it's medium accurate? What's the honest assessment of the sort of tool so far? Open to anything.
I can talk a little bit, like when we show it to our friends or we show it to people like you, and most people seem to think it's pretty accurate. Of course, it's very early days, and some of the algorithms are, need to be enhanced. But we can also do, when we generate them, the machine learning functions, they kind of give a feedback loop about recall and precision and different things, and so.
Yeah, I think there are some movies that would seem a little strange to the casual observer. One, for example, if Ashton Kutcher is in a movie and he's tweeting it out, well, most likely there's going to be a lot of positive sentiment because he's got a lot of followers.
Number one.
So that's one of the things we're working on, to sort of denormalize all of that and make it so that each person looking at the site will get the rating that's fitting for them.
Now, how do you get a rating on a film that is not yet out? I see The Social Network has 27%. What is it? And I also saw people talking about the Tron trailer. Is this like the rating of the trailer?
Yeah, so a lot of people will talk about stuff before the movies are released, which is kind of fun, talking about whether they thought the trailer was cool, the actors, like if the actors looked good in the movie, et cetera, et cetera. And so the score is kind of generated on it's like a hype score about what the movie's going to be like when it comes out.
And how are these aligning statistically with Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes?
We actually didn't do a study on that, but some really interesting blogger, I don't remember the name right now, did a study where he graphed our ratings versus Rotten Tomatoes versus IMDb maybe, and they matched up fairly well for the small, the 10 or 15 movies he graphed. Ours matched quite closely with Metacritic, but it's not exactly the same.
I think the one standout we saw was the new Zac Efron movie. He must have a strong female following. Who's kind of bumping him up, where the critics thought the movie wasn't so hot.
My God, I so want to see that. That's a brilliant analysis. And this is international by design, or it just happened to be that way? I see here, I'm looking on the right, if you pull up my screen, Tales from Earth, that's either Chinese or Japanese, and this looks Indian, Pivotal Life.
Yeah, so we try to pull in, what we're doing is we're trying to pull in new release movies. And it's kind of fun if you go to your profile page. So for example, if you're tweeting out in Japanese and you're living in Japan, you can still go to your profile page. You'll see all your friends' tweets in the native language, so it's fun. The profile pages are all internationalized by default, which is fun.
And you're taking into account Rotten Tomatoes as an account? Is that right?
So if you have a Twitter account, you have a Fflick account, you can just go to fflick.com/your Twitter username. You can see what your friends are saying. You can see your archive, your history.
So do I have to sign up in order for that to happen, or do you just automatically do everybody?
We automatically do everyone. So if you happen to type in an account we've never seen, you'll see a little spinner. We'll say, hey, we're looking through your history, generating your account.
So let me ask you a question about that, because I've thought about this kind of process before. Is it ethical to create an account for somebody on the system if they didn't actually create it themselves. Like I'm looking at Ashton Kutcher's account here. Have you had anybody be pissed off and say, like, I didn't want that there?
Yeah, the feedback has been, mostly positive. There's a couple of people who are confused about if they were an actual user.
Yeah.
It's basically packaging up the public data that's already out there on Twitter.
Right.
And kind of.
So there's a confusion issue.
Right. So we're not actually creating an account per se.
Yeah.
It's just showing the data that's already out there.
We had a similar thing happen to us. We were pulling in questions from Twitter that were public, and some people started getting answers. And we put them on Mahalo Answers, and they said, I never signed up for this. Delete my account. We're like, you don't have an account. You basically were pulling in your stuff from there.
Yeah.
And,
I think right after we turned the site on, there was a couple of people that were confused about it, but kind of the information spread, and then now people have kind of thought it's like a cool idea. So.
Very cool. So let's talk about what it's like to be a startup at this moment in time for you guys. You've been working on the project for how long?
A few months. I think we all left Dig in the past couple months. So,
So you leave Dig, no hard feelings. Those guys are supporters, advocates, I'm assuming?
All of our old coworkers have seen it now, and they're all terribly excited about it. They love it.
Right. And now what do you do about poaching? Do they tell you, like, hey, no more people, no more stealing?
Oh, no, we're not going to steal anyone.
Except for the 4. Was that an issue, or did they say, like, hey, you have a no poaching agreement?
No, we're friends with Kevin,
right.
And so it's just like a friendship thing. We're not going to poach anyone.
Be respectful of that. Most companies have that in their employment letter.
So of course we've signed all the agreements and stuff.
So you got to be careful not to...
all the standard stuff.
Yeah. And so you leave, you're building it, you start playing with it. It's obvious that this has some promise because I actually care about what my friends say. Who do you show it to first? Do you show it to the Twitter guys? Do you just show it to some friends?
Yeah, kind of how it spread as we worked on it, and we thought it was like, we were terribly excited about it. We thought, this idea is awesome. The pages that it generates are really sweet. It's a useful product.
Yep.
And so, we started showing it to some of our friends who are in tech, and they were like, wow. There's always the wow factor when you show it off, which is cool. And then it kind of just spreads naturally, and then, word gets around.
And you start raising a little bit of angel funding?
Yeah, so some of our friends happen to be in nice financial positions where they can help us out. So we've taken, some friends and family, kind of small angel money to help us pay for the servers.
Yeah.
And there's been there's been some buzz in the investor community, which is always exciting and fun.
So you got a little bit of coverage. You got a TechCrunch story. You got a Mashable story.
Yeah, TechCrunch wrote about us. I think this morning we were in the Wall Street Journal, which is cool. Yeah.
Whoa! Did you get a little caricature done or no?
No.
No, just a blog post.
Yeah, a blog post.
Yeah. See, now it's not the same as it used to be. When you say I was in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, it was like, oh, what page, what section? Were you on the cover? And it's like, well, I was actually on the Bits blog.
Yeah, it's funny.
I was like, yeah, you and everybody else.
It's funny. I can tell like my mother and my sister, and they freak out. So.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know the difference yet.
It is interesting though. Now that they have like 5 times as much content on these blogs. It's lowered the benchmark. It's no dig to your story. You will get a good story in the Wall Street Journal when you raise money or whatever, benchmark when they finally wake up to it and they put it in the print. But you do get like,
it's
a lot more people can say they've been in the New York. It's funny. I saw somebody pitch me their company recently, Tyler. This is an interesting one that you have to look out for as well when we're reviewing companies. And they had on their website, as seen in the New York Times, as seen in the Mashable, whatever. And I said, wow, this company's been covered in the New York Times. So I click on it. And, I'm reading the story. It's like, this has nothing to do with this startup. And I hit Control F, and I type in the name of the startup, and it's like, way down the story, they're like, this person who is a, designer at this, shops at this shoe store. It has nothing to do with the startup. It just happens to be that one of their people were mentioned in a story about, the lifestyle of whatever people. And I was like, wow, that is so lame. But so awesome as well, in some way. So anytime anybody sends clips, we got to actually check if it's actually about the company or just one of their employees happens to be.
So it's been fun. A lot of press. Some movie people interested in us, which is
really
fun. Yeah.
Movie people, as in actors and directors, thinking this is cool, or studios saying this is cool. Can we buy you?
Studios thinking it's cool. Wanting to know
change
how they
the
can work with us. No request for changing the ratings yet.
Right. I think work with us means, how can we make this 22 a 45? They will want to massage the rating. So obviously, selling advertising and trailer views. I think trailer views is a pretty established business, right, Tyler? That people pay by the view now for trailers. So how do you work in, and have you thought about how do you work in advertising without selling your soul?
Yeah. One of the nice things is I think we have a lot of fun, creative advertising opportunities on the site. People are talking about movies, and you showed the movie page with sort of the influential people. So of course there's like the Twitter promoted tweets model, where if the movie studios are paying Twitter to have a promoted tweet, we can slip that into a stream in a nice way where users aren't going to hate what they're seeing because it is actually about the movie. And so sort of those creative advertising opportunities are one way.
Yeah.
And also there's been some interest in getting sort of our data slices.
So how defensible, I guess, is the business? It would be the question. There's a lot of people playing with the Twitter API. Sentiment, there's a lot of people who have done sentiment companies over the last 5 years. How does this become defensible? Because couldn't Flickster or Metacritic add this feature if you built it in a month or two? Couldn't they just build it in a month or two? What do you think?
I think, personally, I think it's not a trivial problem. There's a couple, interesting computer science problems. One is like disambiguation. So if somebody tweets out something, how do you know it's actually about a movie? That's a well-established sort of computer science problem.
Right.
And it's similarly like sediment, and then just actually storage and retrieval of all the social media data.
Yeah.
So right now we're doing Twitter. You can imagine seeing Facebook. Yeah, exactly.
That would be probably many more times.
Yeah, that would be
Would it be a bigger data problem or no?
Well, the scale just starts to go, especially when you start dealing with all the friend connections. That's where you start coming into data issues.
That's when you have data issues. That's big data.
Yeah, that is big data. So, it's not. John Doe in his garage building this website. I don't think it could happen overnight. There's some stuff that you have to build.
It's a hard problem. I'll give you that. So here I see an education, and Laughing Squid's a friend of mine, and he says, monstrous wildlife, an educational film about this. So obviously this is a disambiguation where you got it wrong, which is going to happen pretty often, I'm sure, and we'll get better over time. How come, as the user, all I can do here is retweet and reply to this? Why can't I say, this is wrong? Shouldn't I be able to correct it or steer it and say this is, off target?
Yeah, that's definitely a feature we're probably going to build in.
Yeah.
Also, when we start exposing, we might expose sentiment on individual tweets and allow you to say, no, you got my sentiment wrong, to help improve our engine.
We had somebody at TechCrunch 50 or 40 that had a sentiment engine 2 years ago. I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the companies was doing sentiment analysis of the stock market with tweets.
One he kind of gave movies as an example.
Yeah. People have been trying this for a long time, but you guys are the first to actually execute it and get something that looks like it's pretty close to being correct. What about the stock market? Have you guys tested it, yes or no?
I've heard there's some money in that, but I'm not
honestly,
sure.
Have you tested it, yes or no?
No, we haven't tested it.
Because people are using $, TSLA for Tesla, $ for GOOG. I mean, this is the natural place to do it.
I think a large issue in terms of any kind of direct financial motive is going to be getting out the junk that's not really part of it. And it might be something like we might actually not even want to look at someone that tweeted $, the stock symbol. We might want to look about the natural buzz surrounding it to figure out something. But those are definitely options.
People who are explicitly saying Tesla and people who are just saying, I love my Tesla Roadster.
Yeah.
Or, God, my Google sucks. But Google, so with the product that's a consumer product, how do you thread out if they're talking about the consumer product like JetBlue sucks or JetBlue rocks versus JetBlue the stock sucks? Or can you?
It's a good question. I mean, I think as you get into all of these different verticals, new disambiguation problems are going to come up. Some of them are going to be very hard, some of them easy. I think a lot of the site and a lot of in general, when you try to tackle these hard problems, are to focus on the ones that are solvable and presentable. So that's kind of what we're doing.
So maybe movies works, you can tackle that, but maybe stocks is 10 years off or something. Are you guys using like a Mechanical Turk to go through and say like, this is X, Y, or Z, 0, plus, or 1?
We've been using Mechanical Turk, but in a way, none of the Mechanical Turk data actually comes up on the site. It's to help train the models in the back end.
Right.
And then those models actually label the millions and millions of things that come through.
How many hands of poker, so to speak, do you need to look at to actually get it right? Do you need to look at 1,000 people tweeting about Inception, 10,000, 100? At what point do you have enough data?
So this is a general machine learning question in the sense of the number of data that you need to look at depends on how complicated a function you're trying to learn. So what you do is you start out with a simple function, meaning a few tens of thousands of features, and you then look at a relatively small amount of data, a few tens of thousands of examples.
Right.
If, for example, we wanted to capture every little subtlety in the text and the language, it's going to require a much more complicated function and thus a lot more examples, hundreds of thousands. So it entirely depends. If the quality of the thing we're learning now is enough, you hold off. If it's not enough, you get more complicated and more examples.
Thus the reason you're doing something binary like 0, -1, +1.
We're doing a little bit more in the back end, like English, non-English. Does it have intent at all? There are a bunch of sub-problems that need to be solved in order to eventually display something that's reasonable.
And now you're a PhD in this?
Yeah, machine learning.
Machine learning. How long have people been studying machine learning now? It started in the 70s?
Oh, the whole history of it, I guess machine learning, I don't know when the term came out, but the formal study of it, I think, was in the mid to early 80s.
Yeah.
A guy named Leslie Valiant at Harvard put out a paper about the theory of learnability. And that put a mathematical foundation to the study. The study had been going on since the 60s, 70s, where they promised robots would be replacing people.
Right.
And that maybe was a little bit more hype than it needed. Only once it came into actually using statistics to solve problems did it become more useful.
Interesting. And what do you think the best example of machine learning online today is? What's your inspiration?
Fflick, of course.
After Fflick. No, you must have had things that you've looked at and go, my God, this is incredible. I mean, what are the things you look at and go, my God, I wish I built that. That's incredible. That's the best example on the web.
Well, I mean, search is a great example.
Yeah.
Yahoo uses it as part of their core technology. Google uses many, many machine learning algorithms as part of their technology. And so the web, with all the massive data, all the massive text, is really the best play arena for machine learning.
Yeah.
Before that, I remember a lot of people were talking about the paperclip on Windows.
Oh, what was that called?
They used
Clippy? Oh my God, I wanted to kill that.
I think they used some Bayesian network technique for that, but I don't remember exactly.
Well,
but
it was definitely contextual, but I don't know if that's learning, but it was contextual, like, you seem to be doing a mail merge incorrectly, or... Yeah,
and then I know on the web it started with... not started, but spam filtering became a very popular one.
Yeah.
Before say Google took off, but now that there's Google and there's all sorts of data companies trying to analyze data, machine learning is everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty much baked in.
Yeah, every problem is a little bit of art in creating the features and realizing what feature is going to improve things. But for the most part, it's a known quantity now. People want to use it.
How are you guys going to deal with gaming? I mean, that's sort of going to be a big issue. If I am working out here in Hollywood on a really crappy film with a huge budget, I'm going to hire 500 people and create a bunch of accounts, fake accounts, and you don't have access to the IP data like you did at Dig, where you could look for people who were logging in from the same machine and all that other clever stuff Kevin told me about. So how do you guys deal with the fact that it's pretty easy to get somebody to commit fraud?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is if people are trying to do that, we're basically in a good spot. It's kind of justifying our site, which is good. But yeah, all the things Kevin told you, a lot of the tricks we've learned over the years in social media, working with social media.
Yeah.
So one thing you kind of look at how many tweets someone has done about movies. If all they're talking about is movies, that's a little fishy.
Yep.
Things like this. If they're constantly retweeting stuff, if they're, what's the ratio of retweets to normal tweets?
So you can profile them and say, is this a normal person?
Right,
so
you can kind of profile.
Normal retweet percentage is 18%. This person has 0 or 50.
Or how many retweets are about movies that we know about, things like this. So you can kind of bucket users into trustworthiness levels.
Right. So the best way to create a really good covert account on Wikipedia is to create 10 accounts over 10 weeks, make 15 to 30 edits that have nothing to do with what you want to do,
Right.
and then get into a couple of conversations with yourself, correcting each other's edits, as somebody explained to me they did. And then anytime I need a page on Wikipedia edited, I go to this person, and they have 30 accounts that they have baked for 2 years, and they basically will they'll go correct edits on various pages of each of the other ones, saying that this is bias or whatever. So then when you look at their history, they go, oh my God, this person understands the bias rules at Wikipedia, they understand this rule at Wikipedia, they've corrected these spelling errors, these factual, they put citations on things, so this other one gets blended in with all that other good behavior.
You're an expert, Jason, yeah.
There's also one important aspect here, which is you generally trust the people you follow. So if you, from independent of our site, you look at Twitter, there's huge amounts of spam, but you don't follow spammers, and your stream is okay. So you bake that in somehow to the presentation and to the back end as well.
You're pulling those people out. Hey, let's talk about Dig for a second. I've been playing with the new Dig. You guys worked on it, I guess, to a certain extent. Pretty impressive. It seems like it solves a lot of the problem of one group of people controlling the homepage. It's a very personalized experience. What do you guys think of it?
Yeah, so the feature you see is called My News.
My News, yes.
My News, yeah. And I think it's fun. Yeah, it's a good way to kind of see not only what your friends are saying, but tastemakers and different people. So it's kind of it's a nice way. The old Dig kind of had that feature buried, and it wasn't as good. And so they're kind of bringing that to the forefront, which is a good idea, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty clever when you go. I haven't shown it to you yet, but essentially when you go to your homepage, if you had dug something and it had only one dig, I would see it, as well as some of the things on the homepage that might be of my interest as well. Very, very interesting stuff. So now you guys got the angel round going, you got the venture capital going. What does it look like you're going to do? Are you going to try to go for the big venture round? You're going to raise an angel round? What is your goal for the first year of the company? Have you set explicitly, like, this is what we're going to try to do?
Yeah, I mean, from a product standpoint, we want to definitely get into other verticals. Maybe TV shows, maybe video games, some of these things. We also want to bring in, like I mentioned before, bring in some other social media, for example, Facebook. So we kind of have a product roadmap kind of laid out over the next, 6 months to a year. And as far as taking money, we're going to, see how far
Talk after the show. Talk after the show.
As far as taking money, it's getting money to execute on that roadmap.
Yeah. Maybe hire a couple more people.
Yeah, it's exciting because people are excited about the product. They want to work with us. And,
yeah, that's pretty good. You probably have a lot of people who want to come work for the company.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a new, hot company.
We think we're all really good guys to work with too. So.
Well, have any of you guys been CEO of your own company yet, or no? This is the first time? Your first time CEO?
Yes, I'm a first time CEO.
Is it the first time raising money?
My first time raising money.
What about you guys? You were part of the co-founding team of Dig and Revision 3. So you've seen this movie before?
Yeah.
So you have some idea of how it goes?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, both good and bad, and we know the right people, so it should be okay.
And how about you?
No. This is my first time at this game.
Interestingly enough, you guys have all of the social proof you need to raise a round. It should be very easy for you. It's a good lesson for other startup companies who are watching. In terms of credibility, because you work for an epic startup that everybody knows, by a couple of epic entrepreneurs, you have instant credibility. Instantly washes off on you. And the fact that you have 4 people from the same company who've worked together before, again, that's social proof. You actually built a product that looks beautiful. You have a decent domain name that shows that you're able to figure out what a good domain name is and a good design, all like great pieces of social proof, and get on This Week in Startups and get coverage in TechCrunch. Something is going on. Tyler, what are your thoughts on Fflick?
I like the kind of content consignment element, which is that you go to their site and it's got tons of content. It's already filled out. It's like, how do they do that? Like a consignment store, you go in and you can set up a shop for not a lot of investment. And this is sort of a content version of that idea where TechMeme is similar, where you're writing on the back of another content mill, so to speak, to fill out your. That is so brilliant. I mean, you're content rich and worthwhile and relevant right out of the box, with very little investment other than the machine learning PhD, however much he spent on his PhD.
That's a wonderful insight.
When you get a PhD.
I said that's a wonderful insight. We finally got our insight from Tyler. Yes, it's exactly right. And what did I guess last week call it? A network value.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Something network value. The network is valuable before it actually has a network effect.
Right.
Was what he basically meant. So your network has inherent value before you even started.
We call it we like to say the interpreted web.
The
That's
interpreted
a new term.
web. I like the content consignment. Interesting. You want to say something?
No, I was just laughing.
Oh, okay. Well, let's bring Lon in here and we'll do the news. Here, Derek. Don't break anything, Derek. It's okay if you're on camera. It's not okay if you break a $3,000 camera. Network independent value. Thank you, hyped sound.
Yes.
Network independent value. You guys have network independent value. But actually, you have another. You have ONIV. Other people's network independent value. you guys are rocking the OPNV.
Something.
OPNV. Other people's network value. You down with OPNV? Look at Long with the beautiful shirt.
New shoes. I know they can't see
Let me
it
see
on
those
camera.
shoes. Oh, very nice. Where'd you get those from? Are those Doc Martens or something?
These are Rockports.
Oh, a little Rockport. Very nice. Shined. Very nice.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Lon is the creative director of This Weekend and reads the news. But we're going to look for a new newsreader because you're getting overwhelmed. Is that the idea?
No, I think I'm not gonna do the Mad Men show anymore. We're gonna bring in somebody for that.
Another female host, perhaps?
Another female host. I think we
I like
have
that.
I think we have them all lined up. And the iPad show. I'm not gonna be doing that.
Because you were doing 5 shows.
I'm doing 5 shows. It's way too much, but I'm gonna stay on this show.
So you pick this one and
This
YouTube?
one, YouTube, and movies. So I'm gonna keep doing those.
Well, I thought it was 2 of 5. You negotiated 3 of 5?
Well, this is not really. I'm gonna have to keep producing this show no matter
Lon
what.
is negotiating hard. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Let's hear news stories.
Sure. So the first one we'll talk about on Monday, Google and Verizon released their, quote, joint policy proposal to the FCC for how they want to handle net neutrality. They both started by insisting that they love the open internet. They don't want to prioritize internet traffic. There do seem to be plans, however, to prioritize yet to be determined internet services that may come about in the future. So things like healthcare monitoring, online education, smart grids, online gaming, all that kind of stuff. And there's also indications that they may not mean for any of these proposals to extend to the wireless internet. So a lot of blogs and commenters on blogs like Gizmodo pointed this out right away, that none of these except transparency apply to the wireless internet. So there's thought that they may be leaving wireless open intentionally as a loophole. It's the fastest growing way that people access the internet, and they're basically not saying they don't want to prioritize wireless web connectivity. So do you think that that is their sort of secret loophole plan with all this, that Google and Verizon are planning on dishing out, and prioritizing wireless internet and leaving the wired internet alone?
Something's not right in this. Last week I predicted that maybe they would collaborate on a FiOS-like service. They didn't mention that, but they did mention this wireless carve-out.
And they're leaving the sort of all these future things we may develop. Those are off the table.
Sounds like BS. I feel like I'm being snowed. I'm very concerned. I have an editorial I'm going to write about it. That being said, Google has not disappointed me yet. Google has been a stand-up company, but there is 2 things that are troubling me about Google today. One is how they've treated Yelp since Yelp turned down their offer, and they seem to be targeting Yelp for extinction through SEO, which I've been investigating. And if anybody has information on the Yelp rankings and stuff like that at Google, I would appreciate a tip. But I'm not certain of that. I'm investigating it. I have my team out there investigating it. And this concerns me because I don't trust Verizon, because Verizon is not a great company. None of the telcos are trustworthy companies in my mind. I don't trust them. They have not lowered prices. They have not kept competition up. So I don't trust Verizon or any of them. And so I am very concerned that what's happening here is we're going to segregate the internet into everything that's happened previously and everything that happens going forward.
Right.
And so does that mean like net neutrality applies to YouTube, but Gideo does not apply to? So they create a new service called Gideo, and it's Google Video, but it's for wireless and for FiOS, and it's across this new network that uses IP or IP plus Google's goodness, and the open internet is over. And this is a prediction that people had, was that the telcos would at some point, try to close the internet up, and this could be Google's. This could be, if Google does this, it would be the biggest betrayal in the history of the internet, I think. And I think it would be looked at that way by everybody, and Larry and Sergey and Eric are brilliant people who would know that. Therefore, they must not be doing that. That's my hope. They're smart enough to realize they should not,
Yeah.
That being said, they might be about to introduce a free Wi-Fi service nationally with Verizon that they underwrite, that they co-join. Own.
Because Google's real tactic has always been to get you on the free. Like, it comes off, it's this Trojan horse thing where it's free, like, oh, sure, I'll give up all my data for free.
Yeah, analytics is free.
Right, so the idea of you get free internet, free Wi-Fi even, but now it's somehow closed, you're locked into Google in a way. It's kind of their cup of tea in terms of how they position things.
Yeah, it's free if you use Chrome browser. It's free if we take the data. So something is not right.
It might be worth it for Google to subsidize your Verizon plan to have the exclusive on all your search or something.
Well, the other thing, Gizmodo threw this out as a possibility, that Google could theoretically favor traffic going to Android phones over competitors is one thing they could be thinking about in the wireless space. So they could go either way. They could be doing this to, we'll do good things.
Is this Verizon, by the way?
Yeah,
it's Verizon.
Verizon.
So they have a real interest in blocking Verizon from doing the iPhone anyways, because then if they can keep the iPhone on AT&T...
Google's never had a block anybody attitude.
True.
We have the best, fastest,
freest
product, therefore we win. So I don't see Google changing that strategy. I think that's their DNA.
Right.
So while this concerns me, it does have the rules in it that there will be fines for people who break net neutrality and who do what people are already doing, like Comcast was throttling people's stuff. So, but then also they were like, the fine is going to be $4 million if you screw up net neutrality or whatever. I'm like, well, if Comcast throttles the stuff, they're going to save $100 million. So $4 million fine sounds good.
Right.
I think you just basically have everybody opt in. Good. Give me the fine. It's like people who park on the street. They're like, oh, it's a $35 ticket versus parking in the lot is $50.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well,
any thoughts on this?
I'm with you. I think Google, every indication is they like the open net. I can't imagine they're going to close anything down because it's good for them if the net's open.
Right. Guys, any thoughts? Worried?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay. We all agree. Next story.
Move on. So last week we discussed the departure of Mark Hurd from HP amidst allegations of inaccurate expense reports that were discovered during a sexual harassment investigation. That's a mouthful. The story has continued to make headlines. Reuters reports that Hurd will leave HP with an estimated $34.6 million exit package. That includes $12.2 million in severance, plus millions more in vested options and restricted stock. This is after HP has claimed, recall, that Hurd falsified thousands of dollars in expenses to hide his relationship with a former contractor, reality TV star, and B-movie actress Jodie Fisher. For anybody who's interested, she starred in the direct-to-DVD classic Body of Evidence 2, if you want to see more of her.
Not as good as number one.
Not quite as good as the first one. If you haven't seen the first one, you won't be able to follow it.
Yeah, it's
so how are HP, what's baffling to me is how are HP stockholders not up in arms about this? If you're caught falsifying expense reports, you still get nearly $35 million when you leave? If somebody got caught stealing from Mahalo, they wouldn't get like a generous severance package on their way out the door, would they?
No. They would get some other things, though.
Right, yes.
This is unconscionable. I don't understand this. There are specific things that say, like, let's say I decided, oh, you're going to get severance or whatever. Like, I have a severance package if I leave Mahalo. If I was removed from Mahalo. Kind of hard to do since I have most of the board seats. But anyway, if I were to leave, they would have to pay my severance. Right. Unless I was fired for cause.
Right.
So in all employment contracts, there is fired for cause, and most people don't have employment contracts and severance at their companies. It's usually the top 5-10% that they don't want working at another company. So you didn't have a non-compete, you can't work at another company.
I think I have non-compete about hiring and stuff like that.
Hiring, but not, solicitation, but not like they're going to say, we're going to pay you for a year and you can't go work at Reddit or something. But they might have that with Kevin, 6 months or whatever, a year. So when they pay you that severance package, it's to keep you from going to a competitor. That's the only way it's legal in California anyway. And that's the only way they get to enforce it is they give you the golden handcuff. It's like, you're going to get this money for this period of time in exchange for not going from HP to Intel. But this is fraud. It seems.
It seems like that. And somebody in the chat room is noticing the hiding the relationship. She's saying there was no relationship. So people are denying what the money was being used for or whatever.
I think here's what's going on. Because I read a story today that says, she says there's no sexual relationship.
Right.
He paid for her to go with him on a trip to Europe.
Yes.
$10,000 or something.
Yes.
$20,000?
Something. I think it was more than $10,000.
Okay. So this smells like prostitution. Right?
Or something similar. It may not have been a direct prostitution, but...
It sounds like prostitution to me. Why is this guy paying her to come on a trip there? It sounds like she is a call girl. I'm not saying she is or she isn't, but that's what it sounds like. It's in her best interest to not say she is a call girl or she would be arrested.
Right.
Right? So she says it's for marketing services. But what marketing did she do is the question. And why her? Why is he using somebody outside the company for marketing? Right?
Yeah.
And this isn't just hiring...
Why would he be meeting with a random independent contractor who's doing marketing? I mean,
it doesn't make any sense. And why would that go through your expense report and not like through the PR marketing department? So obviously, what really happened here, a person could argue... Theoretically, is that he hired a prostitute and put it on his corporate card. That's what a person, not me, could say. And so what I think is the reason that person who would say that, this theoretical person, the reason this has just resulted in a resignation and her sort of covering up for him is because those two do not want it to be perceived by the public as he hired a prostitute on his corporate card, which is how I look at it. I said, this looks like you hired somebody to come on a trip with you.
Yeah. To escort you somewhere. You might
well, and it's also known as a prostitute, right?
Yes.
I mean, and so if that is the case, and I'm a totally liberal guy, I think that prostitution should be regulated so for the sake of, sex workers and safety and STDs and all that kind of stuff, just like I think that drugs should be regulated and, whatever. If that is the case, you are an incredible idiot as the CEO.
There's got to be a better way to move this money around.
Why would you pay for a prostitute, if this is in fact a prostitute, through a corporate account? I mean,
it just seems like you're leaving such a paper trail. There's got to be
I think that some of these executives,
his wife following his personal account.
Man, perhaps.
But there's a thing called cash. I mean, couldn't you, if you're a multi-millionaire, tens of millions of dollars, can't you have like cash laying around or something? Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like. Something similar happened. I can't remember it.
Well, there was that case of the South Carolina governor who was flying to Argentina to visit his.
But wasn't there another politician who was flying a rent boy? They had the site Rent Boys. So
yes. I forget the guy's name, but yeah,
we talked about it.
He went with a rent boy to Europe, and then he said he had hired him to lift his luggage. Because he got bad back. So
but then you go to Rent Boys or whatever it is, the website, and it was basically like, whoa.
Didn't quite all fit together. Because they'll lift your luggage for you at the airport.
The way I look at it is, number one, he should give back the money they gave him. They should give back the money he gave in severance. Number two, the authorities should look into this, I think, on behalf of the shareholders or whatever. The SEC should look into it, and they should look into the board for making this decision. Everybody.
Well, that's interesting. The New York Times reported there's all sorts of more angles to the story. We can keep going about this for the whole show. Oracle CEO Larry Ellison wrote an email to the New York Times saying that HP's board decision to force out Hurd was a grave mistake. Here's his quote: "The HP board just made the worst personnel decision since the idiots on the Apple board fired Steve Jobs many years ago. That decision nearly destroyed Apple and would have if Steve hadn't come back and saved them." So Ellison and Hurd apparently are close friends and they play tennis together. And the Times is also reporting that the HP board made the decision to remove Hurd after a PR specialist came in and said this investigation would be humiliating to the company and they should nip it in the bud.
So now what's going on is now they're trying to play the other side of the table on the PR basis and say he just hired a consultant who happened to be attractive and he should have done it the proper way.
Right.
Whatever, but he's so talented, we should forgive him or whatever. I do think people's personal lives should have nothing to do with their professional lives.
But if you,
but
it's now money. Yeah.
Honestly, if the guy hired a prostitute, which is, I'm not saying he did in this case. I want to be very clear about that. But
no one is making a truth claim.
Aren't most consultants prostitutes? Really.
Wow.
When you think of
Two incredible insights. In a way, you are giving of yourself for fees.
Yes.
I'm nobody's saying Boston Consulting Group or those guys
No,
are
certainly not.
prostituting themselves. Anyway, point is, solid insight, Tom. The point is, if the guy was in Vegas doing drugs with prostitutes, with, Robert Mapplethorpe photos on the wall of people urinating into a crucifix and whatever most controversial thing you want to do,
Right.
who cares? It's his personal life. But the second you expense something,
Right.
that's when it becomes not about your personal life. And if you did that, now everybody's got to worry about what other ethical lapses do you have, which is why anytime we've gone out to dinner on Mahalo and my wife is there,
Sure.
what do you see me do when the check comes?
You split it up, and so
Exactly.
there's the business side, and then there's the person.
I don't have to do that. Nobody would ever say, oh, your wife came out to dinner, you had 3 other guys doing business, whatever, she can buy dinner on the company. I'm a maniac about that stuff because I am paranoid. Somebody said last week I was paranoid. I know nobody got to see the show because Derek didn't upload the show yet from last Friday. What's going on with that?
It's up now.
I just went to This Week In. It's not on the site.
No, it's up there. I saw it the other day.
I'm
Marco
looking-
Zeppa Costa.
Oh, is it up?
Yeah, it's up. It's definitely up.
That was Friday's show.
That was Friday's show.
Okay. So anyway, went up last night or whatever. It was late. Sorry.
It was late. It was because of the post-production of the
Anyway,
editing.
point is, somebody said to me today, like, you are paranoid that you won't have your own office for the sexual harassment. Last week I said on the show, like, I'm not going to have my own office. I sit out with everybody else. I don't want anybody ever saying, in my office alone with me. Whatever. I mean, but people do get set up. So the question is he being set up here?
Right.
Did he do something stupid like hire her as a PR consultant and try to have a sexual relationship with her that failed? And she then sued him. Like, why? Also, why is she suing him for sexual harassment if he hired her? That's what I don't. What is the sexual harassment? And she wants more money.
I think she made allegations, and they were investigating the allegations.
But she got paid off by him personally.
And then that's when all this came to light. Is while they were investigating the sexual harassment claim, they were like, "Oh, where did all this money go?"
I just want to say this is why I am absolutely brilliant when it comes to these issues and giving advice to people and why they should watch the show. Because being paranoid is what you need to be in relation to these issues. Ethics, morality, and business, be paranoid that you are being set up. When people come to me, sometimes I think, I wonder if this is my paranoid mind. If I'm firing somebody or somebody says, I want to have a meeting with you about this controversial issue, I assume that they're coming in with a wire and going to tape record it and put it on a website. I assume that some insane person will do that to me at some point in my career. That's why I don't do anything stupid in my personal life, in my professional life. Yeah. I mean, the worst thing I'll do is flame somebody on email, and when I do, I post it to my blog anyway.
Right.
I'm like, hey, check out this funny flame. But I don't, you have to be paranoid when it comes to ethical things. Do not ever, it is not worth it. I don't care if you're like working in the mailroom, a salesperson, the CEO, or anywhere in between. Never do anything unethical. Never steal from the company. If it's a goddamn pencil or a mug, don't ever steal anything. And anytime you accidentally put something on your corporate card that might be personal, then go back and say, hey, boss, I put a Starbucks on my personal card and I shouldn't have done that. I wasn't thinking, but maybe in retrospect, can I pay for it? Put that in email. Never give anybody the chance because they will, at some point, take a fine-tooth comb to something. What you want to have is examples of you actually doing the most insane thing. That's why I go over top the other way. This way, if I ever got investigated by an investor, they would say, oh, actually, look at Jason's expense report. He actually paid for this personally. Oh, he upgraded himself to first class. He paid for it on his personal card. Here's an example. Like he's frugal that way. He pays for his own stuff, whatever. Anyway, next story.
Let's move on. Yet another Google social acquisition this week. The search company purchased Jambool, I hope I'm saying that right, the makers of the Social Gold payment system for $70 million. Social Gold allows app developers to build payments directly inside apps like games. The company was founded by former Amazon employees Vikas Gupta and Reza Hussain. Thus far, it's raised $6 million in funding. So far, Google's made a deal with Zynga for games. Slide last week was for apps. So this is probably, we're thinking, Google's attempt at sort of Facebook credits, and do you think we're going to keep seeing more of Google gobbling up these social companies as Google Me starts to come together?
You know what they say, fourth time's the charm. They didn't get it right with Dodgeball. They didn't get it right with Buzz exactly, although I'm a big fan of Buzz. They didn't get it right with Orkut exactly, but it's successful in some pockets. I think actually they're going to get it right this time. They realize gaming and apps are a driving force of social networks.
Sure.
They learned a lot through Buzz, which actually the people who do use Buzz love it, and they understand how to use it, and they understand, how to integrate and how not to. They've learned a lot from Orchid. I think they're taking it seriously, and they will do whatever it takes to get it right. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think games on the internet are gonna I'm really bullish on them.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge opportunity. If you build something that is social and people are going to like to use, it's basically like owning a bank, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just collect the money.
If there's a big search box on the top, and when you're done playing your game, you hit search. That's what it's about. I mean, they basically just have to. All Google has to do is provide a viable alternative to Facebook, and they will impact Facebook's progress significantly. If there was a viable alternative, it doesn't have to be better, just viable alternative, which doesn't exist in the market today.
Not really.
A lot of these games that are coming out, they aren't earth-shattering, right? There's just a little bit of psychology in them, and people get hooked, and then that's it.
It's that social element of it too. It's that's where the games are about doing better than your friends, not winning, and that's what's for people who came of age in a different era was always beating the game, and now it's not that. It's like we rule you can't really beat the game.
There is no beating the game.
Although I got the do better than your.
I got the
friends.
Fortune Teller today. Did you get it?
I have the Fortune Teller.
Would you use Mana?
No, I bought the Fortune Teller.
How did you get that much cash?
Guys.
It's only like 100. It's like 75K or something.
What are you, Magic Cauliflower? You're playing Magic Cauliflower? Next story.
Okay, we'll move on. So the Skype IPO, we got to talk about this. Internet telephony company Skype has filed with the SEC. They're hoping to raise $100 million in an initial public offering. They plan to trade on the NASDAQ Global Market, and it's expected to immediately become one of the largest publicly traded internet companies when it's available. Last year, eBay sold Skype to a group of private investors at a valuation of $2.75 billion. The company notes themselves in their SEC filing that the future for them is a bit in question. There's what they're citing as a lot of dependence on the Skype out service for revenue. That's, of course, if you're on Skype, you can use Skype to call people who aren't on Skype, and then you have to pay. But if a lot more people start using Skype, they seem to be aware, and that means more Skype to Skype calls, which are free, so they don't earn the revenue. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 for them. The company currently has 560 million registered users, about 124 million of those are active, and 8.1 million of those users pay monthly fees to use Skype. It works out to an average of $96 they earn per year for people who pay. So would you invest in Skype stock knowing all this? And where else would you take the company? I mean, what would you do to ensure that their margins are a little bit better moving forward?
Well, good for eBay in getting this out of eBay so they could focus. Although I would not have given it away because I think it's a tremendous asset. But that being said, eBay owns 30% of it, I believe. When they sold, they owned 35%. They did the settlement with the founders. They got their 14% or something.
Yeah.
So if they go public at a $3 billion valuation, eBay gets back $900 million. Plus, they sold that 65% for something. I don't remember what they sold it for back when. Anyway, I think they'll be able to increase the revenue significantly. I think that they're a communication platform, so they could compete in many different areas, including, but not limited to, handsets. It could be a Skype handset. I mean, there are already Skype stuff. We just bought a Skype conferencing system for our office out here.
Right.
But Skype has been neglected. So now Skype can pick up where they left off and start introducing new products. There's a social network in the making there if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, with all those
because I have profiles and it's instant messaging, so you could layer 1,000 different things on top of it. There's 1,000 different things you can layer on top of it, and I think it'll be very successful. And what's really great about this is you've had the Tesla IPO, you'll have the Skype IPO,
Demand Media,
which is huge, and then also, especially for us, and you're going to have eventually the Facebook IPO and the Twitter IPOs and the LinkedIn IPOs. The IPO is coming back. This is great because now, instead of there being 4 people, 5 people who can acquire Fflick, you're going to have 15. Any of these companies are going to have a currency, and this is what's going to bring our country back and and solve the unemployment problems and all this kind of stuff. I believe is that a swath of IPOs is exactly what we need right now. People to have money to invest in, talented people. These are not schmucks. These are really talented people who are going to have large amounts of cash and currency in the stock to be able to, and that will inspire more angel investing. So I think that the 15 companies I've angel invested in, perhaps 16 after today, we'll see how the negotiation goes. I think I'm in. I have to see the terms, but I like what you guys are doing. If you'll have me, I probably will do it. What do you think?
Oh, I love Fflick. I was checking it out. That was
you want to wet your beak?
What?
You want to wet your beak?
I would love to wet my beak
Someday.
Yeah, one day. But I think it's. I mean, Metacritic for your friends. Like, what's not?
I always
like
take it
about
as
that idea?
my position. I always tell it to people who I angel invest in, and I always tell them, one, talk to the people I've angel invested in, Blippi, whatever, go out. And it's like my honor if I'm able to invest in something. I know that as an entrepreneur, because I've been on the other side of the table, when you have not enough equity to go around, and I would never take it the wrong way if somebody said, hey, it's not enough, like Jack from Square, it wasn't enough to go around, I was lower on the list, whatever. It happens. But a lot of these VCs, and not so much the angels, but a lot of these VCs think it's like their God-given right, like, then they start dictating the terms, like, oh, you can't have anybody else in, and we have to approve the other angels. It's like, well, it's not your company, dude, you're an ATM. Relax. Yeah,
well, Mark Suster was talking about this on Venture Capital last week. You and he see similarly in this.
It's like if you are a VC, 90% of VCs are ATMs. That's when you're an entrepreneur, you should just visualize an ATM. And that's the relationship you're going to have with them. And that's the value they're going to provide for you. Money's going to come out, you're going to push a couple of buttons, the receipt, you get your money, you go. And they have about that much personality. The top 10% are going to be epic. They're going to fight for you. It's just figuring out who's the 1 in 10 VCs who's not checked out and going on vacation to Aspen for 6 weeks while you're busting your ass. Not that I'm bitter, trying to build a company. And they're in Aspen for 6 weeks, and then in the summer they're in Hawaii for 6 weeks, and the Christmas they're in Hawaii. I mean, it's just. Anyway, you guys have any opinion on this? What we're talking about?
Fflick likes Skype. We use it for all of our conference calls, or we're in chat all day.
Yeah. Did too.
Yeah.
And of course, this weekend we couldn't function without Skype. I mean,
or with the TriCaster, great product.
We do.
I think the Skype to sell market is big. I mean,
Skype to sell?
I think if you have to call someone and they're not on a Skype account, you have to call their cell phone.
Skype to sell.
Skype.
Yeah, Skype out.
Skype out. Yeah, of course.
Skype out.
Yeah, I use Skype out.
I prefer it over the phone.
I think if you're going to make a phone call, Skype is better than mobile, but not as good as landlines, but almost. I've made phone calls from home where I have, Fios, because Verizon has stopped investing in it. Yeah. We're going to trust this company with the future of the internet? Seriously, I mean. But I have Time Warner cable, and man, Skype calls are perfect. People don't know the difference. And then I have an IP-based phone at home. Yeah. So I think Skype should just be straight into the handset business, try to replace people's home phones, and just partner with Time Warner, Verizon, everybody to just have co-branded hardware and home phone systems that can be 10 systems in a place, and Wi-Fi over phones and all that kind of stuff. Next story.
Well, speaking of companies in which you've invested, we should do a disclaimer. This next story is about Gowalla.
Oh, great company.
You're an investor. Location-based service Gowalla unveiled their new check-in API. Means that third-party apps can now write to Gowalla's API for the very first time. And they issued 6 commandments that all developers working with the Gowalla API should follow. Check in where the user actually is. Don't encourage checking in where the user isn't. Never check in without permission from the user. Encourage social behavior. Discourage bot-like behavior. Rapid, repeated check-ins are not tolerated. And finally, use the API responsibly. So as TechCrunch notes, the discouragement of fake check-ins is implicit in these instructions. It deals with almost all of them. And that's kind of at odds with Foursquare, which encourages users to kind of get creative and funny and have a good time with their check-ins. So what do you think about, is this really setting up the dynamic of Foursquare versus Gowalla? The one is this kind of organized system, and one is this kind of loosey-goosey?
You can check in anytime you want at Foursquare. People game the system constantly to get points. And
make up. I mean, Heatpocalypse was the top check-in for New York. everybody made up that it's so hot. They checked into Heatpocalypse.
So I understand people want to have fun and there's creative use of the system, but if you're going to use these systems and they're going to have some relationship to the real world in terms of trust and economics, it's going to be necessary to make sure that they are geolocated where they say they are.
Sure.
Because it's easy enough for somebody to say, I went to these 5 places and just run from one place to the next. Let's say if there were coupons or discounts available.
Right.
If you went to these 5 places. Well, it's easy enough for somebody to go to the 5 places, let alone if somebody games it, to get the coupon. It's bad. And so Blippi has a similar thing where you have to have actually made the purchase. You can't just say I made the purchase and then do a review.
Right.
It's Blippi is saying we validated the purchase. So that doesn't mean that Foursquare will not be successful with their process. Of course they will. But I do think that it will be the niche that Gowalla will be the trusted version and Foursquare will be the loosey-goosey. And maybe they're there, maybe they're not.
Right.
But Gowalla will be the trusted, and I think it has a lot to do, I don't have any inside information on it, but I would assume that this, trusted location data will be more valuable to merchants and advertisers and marketers.
Makes sense to me.
Next story. Final story.
This is the final story. Netflix has closed a deal with premium cable channel Epix to give Netflix exclusive streaming rights to Viacom, MGM, and Lionsgate films. Great news for Netflix users. The movies will show up 90 days after they debut on TV. The partnership won't be permanent necessarily. The LA Times is claiming it's locked in for 5 years. Netflix also recently signed a similar deal with Relativity Media to have access to stream their movies during the pay TV window, which is a bit earlier than the 90 days. The LA Times is reporting that this deal could cost Netflix some $1 billion over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So how important are these kinds of deals for Netflix to compete with services like Blockbuster, Hulu, and Redbox? I mean, what do you think is the real lever? Is it more movies? Is it cheaper subscription fees? Is it having new releases right away? Like, what's going to be most important as we're moving forward?
Netflix has a very loyal base of users who love the interface and love discovering movies. They're fans of movies typically.
Sure.
So I think as long as you have a pretty good mix of on-demand movies available, you'll be fine. They curate it pretty well. I generally find there's always something for me to watch, but if I want to watch something specific, it's not there.
Right.
So I don't think they're ever going to create the ultimate system where you can download any movie at any time because Hollywood will not let them.
Well, I think people tend to think of like they're looking for newer releases. That's always where people go first. Is like, oh, I missed that one that was in theaters. I think it just came out. Like now would be.
So it's better to have that, but they're never going to be able to get that or compete with that.
No, I mean.
So machine learning wise, I always find something there, and when you go to, they basically do a lot of discovery to keep you from typing in something. They don't want you typing in, like, I want to see this specific movie.
Yeah.
They want to show you so many compelling things that, you would like this, that they don't have to rely on that. Everything they have is going to, the library they have has enough in it that they'll have something you'll watch instantly.
Sure.
And if not, you fall back to the DVDs or the Blu-ray, which is a perfect combination. I've been doing that now. Put that in my queue. I'll watch this now. Perfect.
Yeah.
I think Netflix is got tremendous upside still left in it. What do you guys think? You guys are into movies.
Yeah, I think the users want something that, in my opinion, on Netflix is you just go on and it's dead simple. I don't want to have to search around. I don't have to type stuff in. I want them to know. As a user, I just want to be able to go on there and click a button and see what I want. So the more movies, the better for them.
Yeah, it is great for discovery. I mean, I find I know movies pretty well, and I still find stuff on Netflix that I didn't know about that I'm interested to see. Like this documentary, The Art of the Steal. I just watched that.
What is that? That sounds good.
It's great. It's about this guy who had the Barnes collection, this amazing art collection that he housed in a private home in Lower Merion, right near my hometown in Philadelphia.
Oh, I heard about this. And then
the city of Philadelphia basically came and stole it and put it up in their main museum. So it's all about the behind-the-scenes wheeling and dealing of how this art collection got moved around.
And the guy had put in his will, I absolutely do not ever want this moved.
Like, it has to stay here in this building, and it's a school, so it's only open to students, and the public can't come in, because he was kind of a misanthropic, curmudgeonly, people don't appreciate my art.
181 Renoirs, 69 Cézannes, 59 Matisses, 46 Picassos. So basically got overruled, and more people can see it.
Yeah, so he got overruled. So, well, I mean, you got to watch the movie, because if you hear the movie's very,
There's your Netflix pick of the week, is The Art of the Steal on my monitor right now. And that will be your Netflix is not sponsoring, but somebody cut this up and tell them that they should sponsor the network. Netflix, The Art of the Steal is Lon's pick of the week.
It's really great.
And my pick of the week is Stranded. I've come from the plane that crashed on the mountain. An amazing, amazing Spanish film about the 72 plane carrying players and coaches from the...
So this is the same incident Alive that movie is based
But this is the actual people talking about being stranded and cannibalism of their friends and relatives in some cases, and is dramatic and spiritual actually in a way, and there's a lot of religious overtones related to Catholicism and communion, and it takes you to places you wouldn't imagine, and you actually have a lot of sympathy and understanding for what they went through. The Art of the Steal and Stranded, I've come from the plane that crashed on the mountains, are two Netflix picks of the week. Cut this, Mo, and send it, and I'll send it to Reed and say, hey, Reed, why don't you sponsor the network? We've got please, for the love of God, let's get some cash in here and support independent media. Love Netflix. Been a fan for a long time. Okay, thanks for being on the program, gentlemen. Continued success. You guys are off to the races. In a hot market, smart entrepreneurs, take the money. take the money and build, and then you'll always have an opportunity to raise more later. Thank you, Tyler. A 2 Insight show. You're back in rare form. Good insights. Lon, congratulations on the new look. You're looking dapper. I know people are noticing a new look for Lon. Very nice. There is a show this Friday at 11 a.m. Do I have a guest yet or no?
I'm working on that. We could just do an Ask Jason. It's up to you.
Do a Ask Jason. Bang it out real quick. I like that idea.
We could do an Ask Jason.
And then next week, is Jason Nazar going to host next week?
I'm talking to him behind the scenes right now. We'll see if we can
either I'll be off next week or...
Well, you're definitely off next week.
Well, I know that. But
either the show is off next week or we'll try to get Nazar in here, maybe do an episode or two.
And thank you to .co and to DNA Mail and Trada, who sponsor the Friday show. Thank you to New Tech for the TriCaster. And thank you to Gazelle, which... is a sponsor of some of the other shows on the network. I thought we'd throw in an ad for them today.
Yeah, they came on they were one of the first people to come on board for some of the other shows. The iPad show, they've been a great
1 hour, 21 minutes. We did good today. We'll see you next time.
Spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.